So there's a couple of versions of this a comment on the Grand Theft Auto 6,000 people working for 10 years on a game. And I think it's a really misunderstanding of how many people are needed to make a game, as well as there's some of like, how do you actually keep them busy and just like get lost in the shuffle? So let's break it down a little bit, right? So we can't use GTA 6 because it's not out yet. And I guarantee you there's more than 1,000 people working on that game, right? The man hours are going to be way higher than that. So we can look at Red Dead Redemption 2. Same company, different studios, right? 8-year development and 1,600 people working on it. The game has 300,000 animations. Now, let's not use animations here for a second. Like the horse animations there are beautiful. They probably have a team of like 20 people working on that alone, if that, not more, right? Because it has got to work everywhere, and then all the different variations of the horses, and if they're blah, 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 right? Like they go crazy there. And they can do all that detail and that fun because they've got so many people working on it. I mean, take a look at a little ladder. If I'm putting a ladder in my game, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to the marketplace. And I'm like, that ladder will do. But what's Red Dead Redemption 2 doing? Well, first, they're going to have a researcher go look up what kind of ladders were used back in our time period. Not roughly time period, but like these 2 years that this game takes place in. Well, okay, let's have a concept artist now concept some of these ladders. Now let's have a group of people look at those ladders and go like, yeah, this is the kind of ladder we want. This is it. Someone else is going to research the wood, the nail pattern. Someone else is going to make the textures for that, making sure they're using the right materials. And another model is going to assemble it all, and you're going to have a ladder. Because there's not a lot of jank in those games. Of course there's jank because this is giant projects. But like the level of detail that people love in those games exists because of all those people working on those games, right? And so they don't get lost in that because they have a really great pipeline and process to making their games. Now, I know I've heard some things about those studios and burnout and whatever. Okay, but it's worse in some places, right? But I have a friend who, I won't say the studio, 7,500 people made the game he worked on. Now, is it his personal vision? No, it's his shared vision with the team. And so the first setup is you get the vision going. You shop it around, you get people working on it, the company gives feedback, you get the whole team, then you document everything. Because you're going to be spreading this around the world. Now, is that person in charge of 7,500 people? Roughly, yes. But is he managing them? No. What he's doing is he's managing 7 people. And then each of those people have some group that they talk to. So let's say they're talking to the story people. Maybe the story people, because there's a lot of overlap. Remember, there's always a lot of overlap and back and forth in games. But they're like, hey, we've got a team in Estonia that helps out on this as well as this team here in Canada. Well, so that means that is he learning Estonian to go manage the Estonian team? No, there's a manager there, right? And he's working with it, right? But now the great teams, the good teams, make sure that since they have these people excited to be working on these games and they're passionate about it, that they capture not just the output of what they do, but their ideas and their concepts. So, like at Valve, we're working on Left 4 Dead 2, and we're making them all. And I'm like, hey, I want to make this joke, disco pants and haircuts, right? And I'm an old man, you know, that's my references. Blues Brothers reference. And so the artist is going to make sure that works, but he's also making his own jokes and bringing those in, right? But he is independent of me, yet working with me, right? And so it's like all this bubbling back and forth. Before I'd go to a writing session, I'd always be like, especially the animators, I'm like, hey, you got any gags, any jokes? Let's take them. Let me steal them. Because they have good ideas. And so why not have that bubble back and forth and then put your name on it and then you're the funny guy. But right, like you do this back and forth and really good teams do that. You can kind of see that in the games that they create because you see these things go all the way through. And that's good management on the way up and good management on the way down. I don't know how to do that. That is outside my skill set. That's why I got to be with the flat company. I got to empower people. And sometimes I fail at that, right? Because baking signs in Anacrusis aren't as good as the signs in Left 4 Dead. And that's my fault. Because I didn't realize and do all the work that I should have done there. My fault, right? But like you'll see this a lot. And I think this is when I talk about Microsoft and being scared about Microsoft taking over studios is they add so much bureaucracy to their studios that you don't see a lot of up and down. You see just a lot of down. And I think that reflects in the game. Everyone working there is skilled, works well, works really hard. But the output has never been up to their own expectations. So I'm not making a judgment on their games. I'm just saying their own expectations were not met. And that happens because you're doing this thing where you're not allowing back and forth, right? And it's hard. It is really hard. Like the skill set to build up a team of 1,600 people and manage them and create something like Red Dead Redemption 2 is seriously way outside the league of what I could do. I can write funny jokes for it. I can't do that, right? And so there are people that are just really good at that, and you can see that reflected on the teams. And some, even in some big companies, you see some teams really good at this. Like some stuff is just really kind of like honed and practiced, and they're really good at making these type of games, and it shows. And that is a skill set unto its own, but it's like it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of people working with those people, and it takes a lot of concentration and effort. And nobody gets lost, nobody gets to hang out. And man, I made the joke, and this is true, that there, for the most part, were more studios working on Far Cry 6 than people working on the Anacrusis. More studios, each of those studios representing like 1,000 people, than individuals working on the Anacrusis. That's the scale difference between what you see. And the ability to harness that scale and create something is amazing to me. But it also is gigantic, and a giant number of people working on these things. And again, that's why these companies are pushing for AI, and AI is not doing it, my friend.